So, I know it hasn't been much time since it dropped, but Goji Chronic's video on the Q from All Tomorrows versus the Empire from Star Wars has been released, and I have my fair share of contentions with it, so I decided to make a video now explaining everything I disagree with in that video. Don't take this as malevolent or me being a dick, because that's not my intent. I simply disagree, so I think it's only logical and entertaining for me to speak my piece. And I don't even really disagree with the final verdict itself. For anyone who hasn't, I do suggest subscribing to Goji Chronic, as he does make good content and is worth checking out. Now let's get into this. Now, first of all, regarding the Star People's technological capabilities, I believe they are being vastly overrated here. Never is it stated that this technology is directly capable of destroying entire stars, let alone solar systems. The statement being referenced is discussing the weaponry capable of making a star go nova, not supernova, which would in turn wreck the solar system. By definition, novas aren't capable of destroying the star itself. Novas generally also verbatim not destroying white dwarf stars. It's also a leap in logic to assume they had enough of these weapons to wipe out their entire area of influence, as that's never stated or really even implied. Not to mention that the effectiveness of these said weaponry doesn't inherently mean the weapons weren't capable of physically harming the Q and their ships. This could very likely just mean that the Q's method of warfare was significantly more complex and nuanced than simply using these interplanetary attacks, which allowed them to easily wipe out the Star People without even necessarily having to directly combat this technology. This should just be evidenced by the fact that the Q are never stated or shown to have actually engaged in a physical war with anyone until the end. In fact, this is the primary reason they are differed from the machines. We're even shown later that a few unknown combined forces wiped out the Q, this being the Q's only actual physical fight as far as we are aware of. As far as speed goes, I think this is simply ignoring plenty of context. Not only were the Star People admittedly incapable of faster than light travel, but it's implied later on that the Q used wormholes for interstellar travel, debunking the argument of them using massively faster than light travel. This is likely evidenced further by the fact that the Gravitals, a force relatively equal to the Asteromorphs that would later combat the Q, verbatim had to make changes to their physiology to survive the long and harsh trips to other solar systems. Now, where I'd personally place the Q, I think multiplanetary to maybe star level is safe, considering the fact planetary destruction is something both the Asteromorphs and the machines were capable of, and the Q should just narratively exceed this, considering an even more advanced Asteromorphs needed assistance in taking down the Q. And for speed, I'd say maybe relativistic, considering the Star People were capable of percentages of light speed, and the Q should massively upscale them, even if it's unquantifiable. Now, in the Star Wars portion, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the scaling he did. I just think it's a bit conservative, and he doesn't substantiate some things as well as he could. But the only thing I think could be a bit contentious when it comes to his scaling is with his argument for speed. The reason I say this is because while blasters can be interpreted as light speed, that being substantiated through statements, it's also contradicted by others. Alternate, perfectly valid interpretations are that of them simply utilizing a form of condensed gas. But I think you could have gone a little further, Goji Chronic. I know Star Wars downplayers go crazy, but come on. I know damn well you know some of the arguments for Star Wars getting higher. I was repping that shit in the Discord server 10 months ago at this point. Anyways, this is an on-the-spot video, just for funsies. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Subscribe to Goji Chronic, obviously, and see you all later.